Hello, everyone, for joining us on the webinar. I'm really excited to have Joe Milunas on the line tonight or today. Joe is a really successful multi-unit apartment building investor. So he's the owner of Mach Real Estate. His company provides basically conservative income investments in apartments for IRA holders and other investors. And he is a project management professional, certified. He has a master's degree in organizational management. And so he also is an owner-operator of multifamily in Ohio, which is ironically where iPlan Group is from. And last but not least, Joe is the author of Success Leaves Footprints, written with David Lindahl. And so it's a book where Joe shares his secrets he uses on a daily basis for investment sponsor evaluation. And how I came to meet Joe was through David Lindahl, because David Lindahl and his group have done a lot of business with self-directed IRAs, and they've referred a lot of new clients to me. So that's how I met Joe. And Joe and I were talking, and I thought this would just be an excellent webinar topic because, when we're dealing with non-traditional assets, just having some knowledge on how to do background checks and how to vet investment sponsors, it's absolutely invaluable. So Joe, with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, and thanks for being on.
Thanks, Matt. This is Joe Milunas here. I wanted to jump right into saying the importance of getting a background check on the investment sponsors that you're going to use. And one of the stories that I wanted to share, I went over briefly with Matt before we started recording, is the importance of using a background check on all types of people in your life, particularly the ones that you're investing with. And what we're going to do to start tonight is we're going to go over the disclaimer that is required of all iPlan Group presentations. And I'm going to have Matt lead that section very briefly.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. So, folks, as you've probably seen before, iPlan Group, when we do these webinars, we want you to just know that they're for educational and informational purposes only. We're not here to act as a financial planner or a legal counsel or a CPA or an accountant. Please, by all means, consult those people before you do your transactions. And also, we don't endorse, affirm, or recommend any company or product or investment, okay? So just if you could take a look at this legal disclaimer, we, again, just want to make sure that you're aware that this is specifically for educational purposes. And Joe, thanks, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Absolutely. Let's go over the facts. More than 90% of investment education is focused on the investment vehicle. 90%. So say you go to a real estate investment club. How many topics out of each month, there's 12 months, how many of them are on due diligence? I would say almost zero. And if you go to a real estate section of Barnes & Noble, how many books on real estate are about doing due diligence on people? Very few. And that's why most investors totally underestimate that it's the people who run your investment, and they're the primary cause of the success. So why is this? No one has ever really given you a system to do your homework on the people involved. You may, like for example, I'm in the apartment industry. You may go to courses learning about how apartment investments work, how the cash flow works, how the resale works. But have you ever been trained on how to do the research on the people? And the solution is tonight. I want you to take great notes, and everything you're going to need is going to be covered in this webinar. There's going to be no courses sold. It's just truly to take care of the iPlan Group clients. So our own disclaimer, we're not providing any legal advice, and we truly suggest, in addition to your own research, you employ financial and legal counsel when evaluating any investment. That's critical. So the big objectives of our webinar. Number one, we want to reduce your risk. We want you to approach your next investment sponsor with a set criteria to evaluate them. Number two, we want to increase your odds of picking world-class partners to work with. So I'll talk briefly about myself. My background, I'm the owner and operator of Mach Real Estate. I focus exclusively on multifamily. I'm a project management credential certification, and what that means is a PMP, and that is earned by doing 4,500 hours of projects and getting credentialed by the #1 agency in the world. I have a master's in organizational management, and in our company, I'm responsible for organizing our teams, whether it be property management or our marketing teams. I'm responsible for choosing the people in our business. And the reason why I'm selected out of all the people involved in our company is I'm the best at it. And it's because I have a great an intuition on people, but more so, I do my homework. And then lastly, as Matt said, I'm an owner-operator of multifamily in Ohio. I started at KB Homes in 2003, a Fortune 500 builder. I formed North San Diego Real Estate Investors in San Diego, and it's in their 10th year now. I formed my own company, Mach Real Estate, and I also operate the Investors Inner Circle, a group of our current clients. This is the book I wrote recently with David Lindahl, and the topics that we're going to cover tonight are out of the content in that book. So the 4 most common investment scams and return killers. #1, you want to take great notes. This is called the Ponzi scheme. And how that operates is a company will continually add new clients to one type of investment. Let me say that again one more time. A Ponzi scheme is where you continually add clients to one particular pooled investment. And what happens is instead of showing profit, what they'll do is they'll start distributing the money from the new investors, right? So what happens is they start giving away principal instead of giving away profits. That's the #1 investment scam that you need to be careful of. I don't know why these are coming up in this order, but we'll start with 2. #2, terrible, disorganized paperwork. I was at a real estate class where this guy wanted to buy a package of houses. So he took out a laptop and during the lunch break printed up a 1-page contract for 4 other investors to get involved. And he didn't realize it, but he was breaking every securities law known to man by doing that. So you need to make sure that you're organized and you get proper legal counsel. #3, a return killer. Lack of communication. Have any of you ever had a problem before and wanted to speak with somebody and instead you get a branching service where you call in and you say, hey, you'd like to speak with someone, and it says, push #1 if you'd like to speak with acquisitions, push #2 if you'd like to speak with property management. And we can all relate that you've all been in that situation. So one of the key scams and return killers I see is where you can't get a hold of the people putting the sponsorship or the deal together. And that's #3. And #4, one of the most common scams that they have right now in investing is where the promoter will take more money than their legal documents allow them to raise. That's a critical one, and I'm going to show you how to deal with each of these tonight. So these are from FIRNA, and this is a federal group that tracks fraud. And one of the things that I want you to realize is when any person guarantees that you're going to make money, you should run, okay? Run. There are no guarantees in investments. Companies that make guarantees, one of the scams that I've seen is this company would sell houses and they would guarantee you a tenant, right, for the first year. Well, picture this. New clients come in, they get their new houses, the tenants flow into the properties. And what do you think? All the tenants were going to make good on their promise. So what you need to watch out for are companies that make guarantees that could at some point come back to haunt you. See, that company was delivering on their guarantee, but it was literally putting every single other investor at a disadvantage. Next one, missing documentation. Anytime that you do a investment, particularly in like our industry, for example, there's a legal document called a private placement memorandum. It's called a PPM. You want to write that down, PPM. And you want to make sure before you give any money to an investor for a pooled investment, you want to see that document, and it's called the PPM. And it stands for Private Placement Memorandum. Oh, this next one, complex strategies. I'm going to say this very simply. If you don't understand what you're investing in, you should not invest in it. What you should do, if you don't understand something, is say go to an education, like a 3-day course or a week course on what you want to invest in, so you have the foundational knowledge and terminology to know if you're getting a good deal or not. And lastly, pushy salespeople. Pushy salespeople, oh gosh, that would be someone that just doesn't take no for an answer. They're calling you incessantly, and every time you tell them a real reason why you should not be doing this investment, they keep pushing. That's a huge, huge red flag. Any good investment, the people are literally crawling over themselves to get into, most of the time. Now, let's start to do some homework. Edgar database. So when somebody does a large deal where they're raising money, the government since 1984 has been keeping electronic records. So if everyone can see my screen, I'm going to show you the Edgar database. So this is what it looks like. So you can actually type in on this screen, you can actually type in a investment. I'll just show you one I did in the past. So you search. So you get the name of the actual offering, and you click search here. And you can see that there's actually documents filed, the date at which they're filed, and then you can click on this button here. If you look at my screen, so I'm on the Edgar search results. You click on this, and it has the list of all the actual documents filed with the government. And you can click on this, and I want you to take notes. I know this is critical. This is called a Form D, as in dog, Form D. One of the scams that happens when people are pooling money is, I'll show you for example, like we had one here that we raised $325,000. Say the promoter tells you that they're raising $500,000 or $1 million, but their government documents say $325,000. Legally, no one is allowed to raise more than this actual document filed with the government. So this is a critical thing. If you're going to get involved in something, I'll do it one more time. You go to the Edgar database. I'll go back to, and you type in the name of the investment inside here. And if you want to Google this, it's just called Edgar, E-D-G-A-R, company filings. And look at this, 20 million filings can be searched with just the stroke of a key. Google search, we all know what Google is. I'm not going to go too in depth there. Let me get my slides up. Google search. This one, if you want to spend maybe 10 or 15 minutes, you can find a lot about people. You find about their personal lives, their backgrounds, other jobs they hold, etc. And it's a great place to start your search. Calling references One of the red flags that I always look for is if somebody will not provide references to the investments that they're providing. And that's critical. And by calling those references, you want to create a list of questions and spend enough time on the phone to where if they are full of it, you'll catch them. And it usually, I would say usually the minimum time you want to be on the phone with a reference is about 15 minutes, because they'll get comfortable with you, you'll get to know each other, you build a little rapport, and you use what's called the reasonable man tonality. You say something like, so how long you been working with this person? And you use that tonality. It's very friendly, it's non-confrontational, and it really shows that you're not really digging for fraud information, when the reality is you are. But if I called someone and I said, how long you been working for? And I had that tonality, it'll make the other person defensive, and you won't get that information that you need to make a true picture of what's going on. Another thing I like to see when you're doing due diligence is contacting previous clients. And that's where, if they're an investor, company, and they're offering, say, apartment investments, you want to talk to some of their previous clients and just make sure they did what they say they're going to do. So the process for doing background checks. I'm going to show you this. Another website, make sure you take notes here. This is the best one. It's called U.S. Criminal Checks, Inc. Check this out. It's a nationwide criminal history search. One of the problems with most of the criminal background services that are offered is they're state or county specific. And what will happen is, say you live in California and you wanted to do a background check on an investor sponsor that's putting together a deal inside of California. Well, you don't know if he did something wrong in Georgia, but if you use this database, it'll pull not only when they were put into a felony, but when they're arrested, and that's critical. You can see everything: the disposition, incarceration history, etc. One of the things that will make this accurate is getting the subject's date of birth. So if you were to do a investment with Matt, for example, you would get Matt's birthday, and you would ask for his social security number. And quite frankly, if you're putting $100,000 with somebody and they don't give you their social security number to do a background check, keep the money in your wallet, okay? But that's critical. So all you do, it's very easy. You just type in the person's first and last name, their birth date, and their social security number. And then you put your credit card in here, and you click order now. It's that simple. Now, one of the things you want to notice when you're putting your credit card information into a website is this S up here at the top. That means that the data is actually locked down and encrypted. So they're a legit company. They've been around since 1985, and I actually caught somebody. I did a background check for one of my friends that was going to get in an investment, and I pulled up that the guy had a check fraud charge. And the bottom line is if you see something in one of these criminal background checks, I would not recommend going to the investment sponsor and saying, hey, can you explain this to me? And they'll come up with a story that sounds legit, and then you still invest with them. No. If you find something in this report, you got to run. Okay. Multiplier effect. Now this is an important aspect of every partnership that you're going to be working in. An example of a non-value add partnership is where you work together and create 2 times the results. Not that exciting. But an example of a value add partnership is where you're working together and you're creating 3 to 5 times the results. And why do I think this is a relevant slide to tonight? Well, you can go out and do things on your own, right? But one of the things that I talk about in my book, the first actual section of it, it talks about how trying to do things on your own is a fool's trap, because if you look at an investment, sometimes there's 45 steps involved. So what I recommend is that you do your due diligence and you really focus on the fact that if you work with the right people, and I'm not saying myself, you can work with anybody, but do your homework, and it's worth tolerating the risk that you have working with other people, because you can get a much better result, but you have to do your homework. And we're not done yet, but I want you to take a second and write this down. This is an incredible deal. I hope I have enough of these to accommodate everyone on the call. Nikki Smith is my virtual assistant, and that's her email address. Now, if you send her an email, including your mailing address, I'll have someone in our USA team send you out this book, which is worth $30, and I have 20 of them set aside just for tonight's webinar. So I'm going to leave that there for 1 second. Write down that email address, MACH, the number 5, period, assistant at gmail.com, and include your mailing address. So the bonus section. This is exciting because some of you are going to go into business on your own. And what I mean by that is you're going to go buy real estate investments with just one other person as your partner. One of the things that you're going to see inside of that book is the critical things that you need in a business partner. I did a master's degree. It was 2 very hard years away from my family. I was always on a computer, writing papers and analyzing deals and businesses. And something came up over and over and over. And it was the importance of picking the right business partner. So during that program, I wrote out a manifesto, if you will, like a 3-page document of what I was looking for. And it included all these aspects. Now, number 1, you want to look at the background of the person that you're working with. What's their track record history? What deals have they been involved in? You want to look at what type of companies have they worked for? And you want to do a criminal background check. Next, competency. You want to call at least 4 business references. 4. That does 2 things. Number 1, it's very hard for someone to hide their incompetence if you call 4 people. Because what will happen if there's anything fishy, there will be inconsistencies between those 4 people and their story. And it's easy to find. But I like to see 4 references on anybody I work with. The second thing that it'll do, if you pull references on somebody, they're going to take you seriously. They're going to know that you're serious and that you really want to work together. Compatibility, this is important. Talk about doing due diligence on somebody. What if you end up not liking each other? I know that it's not a criminal aspect, but some partnerships fail because you don't do the due diligence on how compatible you are. It's like people getting married, from their remote bride from Russia, and they end up living together finally, and it doesn't work out. Well, the same thing happens in business. So for compatibility, what I recommend is if you're going to select a business partner, that you go to a conference for 3-4 days together, and you see how well the 2 of you get along together. This is critical. This is absolutely critical. Commonality. You got to look at your goals and look to see if there's overlap between the 2 of you. For example, say in my apartment business, my goal was to only do 1,000 apartment units, and my business partner wanted to do 3,000. there would be a big difference in the amount of effort that I would put in versus him, right? So looking for commonality, that's critical. Verifying skills. For example, in our industry, before I would partner with somebody as a business partner, say in Mach 5, I want to see how good they are at analyzing deals. That's a critical skill in what we do. So to save you 2 years of going to a master's degree in organizational management, this is what they teach you. If you do these 5 things in depth, the odds that you're going to get somebody fantastic to work with are very high. And you can also use these with, investment sponsors. I mean, I've gone to conferences with people that have invested with us and so forth, and for the most part, we get along, and it's great. But you have to spend the time. I think if there's an underlying theme to how people get burned, underlying all this information, is if you want it so fast. If you want to do the investment fast, you want things to happen too fast. That's critical. How not to pick someone. Proximity. What is proximity? Proximity is how close someone is to you. I've been to multifamily trainings for years, dating back to probably 2010 or even before then. And it was amazing. People would sit next to each other, okay? They would go to lunch together because that's who they're sitting next to, and that's like the friendly, gentle thing to do, right, is to invite people around you to go to lunch. I do this. And then before you know it, they get so familiar with each other, they end up going into business together. And the problem is they haven't done their homework and they haven't done these steps. And if you look at the statistics of the number of businesses and partnerships that fail, I guarantee you that the number of partnerships that were formed on proximity and friendship were some of the ones that had the highest level of risk. Because here's the thing. If you do these 5 steps and you truly go through them in depth, you're going to find somebody fantastic. I mean, my business partner showed up. I'll never forget it. I'm sitting there at an event, and he's sitting there, and he looked like down about something. And I said, "Wow, God, what is it?" He said, "Gosh, I'm just here, working with people and showing them, my business. He owns an apartment expense reduction business." And he sat there, and he sat in the chair. He just looked like something was off. I'm like, "What is it?" He's like, "Oh, well, this person said I had, no fit in their business. I wouldn't add any value." And I looked at him, and I started asking him these questions, and I started going through those elements I looked at before, these ones here. I talked about his background, his competency, his compatibility, all those things. And before you know it, I realized that this guy, his name's David, has 130,000 units of clients that he does expense reduction before. And the light bulb, boom, went off like that. And I really wanted to immediately say, "Hey, we should go into business together." But did I? No, I did not. I ended up going through these steps. I did the background check on him. He passed that. I did the competency check. I called 4 references on him. And at the end of it, we're best friends now. So don't worry about whether or not you have a friendship with that investment partner now. That'll develop from having all of these 5 factors in place. If you'd like our opinion on an investment, on an investor, or you need some advice on going through the process of doing due diligence on somebody, I absolutely love doing this. And I'm offering my phone number there, as long as no one abuses it. That's my cell phone number and my email address. and that's my partner's email address and cell phone as well. But I just wanted to give that to you because sometimes when you're doing your homework on somebody, you don't understand exactly how the Edgar database works or how to do the criminal background check. But those are critical factors, and many of the people on this call, have IRAs, and they have anywhere from $20,000 to $2 million that they're going to be placing with somebody. So I don't care who you invest it with, but I'm just going to be a resource for you if you need help or assistance on doing your homework and going through the process of the webinar tonight. And once again, if you want to request the free book, I'm going to put the email address up there again. It's mach5assistant@gmail.com, and include your mailing address, and I'll have one of the girls in the office mail out one of those books. And once again, that's my cell phone number at the bottom, 949-872-9434. So with that, I just wanted to congratulate all of you, because this is not the sexiest webinar. This isn't the, how to turn $10,000 into $1 million seminar. But at the end of the day, this could very well be the most important information that you're ever going to use for your investment career, because it's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. And with that, I'll pass it back to Matt, and we'll answer any questions.
Excellent stuff, Joe. Thank you. So let's go into the questions box here. And can you see it? Can you see the questions box, Joe?
I'm going to open it up.
All right. So, folks, if any of the attendees want to ask some questions, feel free to type that in. And then what we'll do is we'll have Joe answer that live. We'll have him answer the questions verbally. See if we get any questions here.
They must be busy doing their criminal background checks on people.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, let's see here.
Perfect. Well, at this point, I just wanted to say, unless you got one that came in.
Well, there's questions that kind of came up during the presentation.
Sure.
Oh, man.
Do you have the questions?